This is Off the Record, a radio playlist where I help you find new artists and new music. I'm here with indie alternative artist Best Dad, who recently released his, I love the way you worded this, ambient pop EP, Heaven Must Have Sent You. Dude, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I just got done with a run with some buddies around the Silver Lake Reservoir. I'm chilling here at work before I have to clock in. It's great.
That sounds nice, like a good morning run, especially like when it's like the California dry heat that's kind of happening right now.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
vibe.
You have to get it in before it gets too hot though, or else it's just like
What is
miserable.
like what is like the perfect album to run to?
Oh my gosh. You know what's really funny is you would think for me it would be like something really upbeat, maybe something that's like heavy or super like, like fast BPM dance music or something.
Yeah.
But I actually really love running to like very ambient music with no meter. Like I don't know why it makes me
Really?
feel like maybe it makes me feel like I'm like flying or something. But often like when I would run by myself, I would put on this like pedal steel ambient album and just kind of like I don't know, just soar.
That's cool. Actually,
Yeah.
I can see the vibe of that. That's cool.
It's like Chariots of Fire, like I feel like it's
Yeah,
like dun 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 dun. I'm like just charging past people,
that's so fun.
pushing over kids.
Sometimes when I'm at the gym, I'll throw on like a Pixar playlist, like those
Whoa,
Randy
fun!
Newman instrumentals.
Oh my
Yeah, this
gosh.
dude like get me going sometimes. All right, well let's talk about your music influences. Growing up, who was playing music around you? What were they listening to? Not so much like the artists you were discovering.
Sure. Um, I grew up in like a very like sheltered Christian household, and so
Okay.
a lot of the music that was on like we didn't listen to a ton of secular music, but my like I was also homeschooled with my brother. You're learning a lot about me. So,
Yeah.
my mom had this like collection of like all of the great composers. It was like a 27 CD set, and
Wow.
so we listened to a lot of classical music growing up, and then obviously like a lot of Christian music was on like in the car and that in the house
Yeah.
too. But my dad is a musician, and he was like a jazz musician. He is a jazz musician, and so my exposure to like secular music, like proper secular music, was a lot of like jazz standards and stuff.
Okay.
I think, and then as I got older, like when I was in high school and stuff, I started listening to a lot more like rock music and pop music. But when I was like younger, I basically didn't listen to like any top 40 stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you remember who like those first artists were that you kind of like dived into when you first started listening to secular music?
Well, the first record that I had on like constant repeat was that Girl from Ipanema, like Stan Getz Gilberto album.
Yeah.
That was like the record. I think it was probably like my like going into my freshman year of high school. I was like in love with this girl, but it was like lovesick because she was like older than me and way cooler, and there was no way I'd ever have a chance. And so I just like would listen to that album and feel sorry for myself. Um, but yeah, no. The funny thing is like the most vivid and like sacred memory I have of like what would be considered like pop music is when I was like maybe 5 or 6 years old. I remember being at a wedding and like the reception playlist was all like Michael Jackson and the Beatles, and like it did
Okay.
something. It did something to me. I was like, this music is like so magical. It like made me feel alive, and I like clocked it. Like as a young kid, I like clocked that
Yeah.
music. And like we listened to some Beatles and some Michael Jackson. Like those were kind of like they were so around, and my dad liked the
Yeah.
Beatles too. But for the most part, it wasn't like being played all the time at my house.
Whenever someone brings them up, I always have to ask, what is your like all-time favorite Beatles track?
Dude, that's tough. The song specifically that I clocked was "I Want to Hold Your Hand,"
Okay.
and I think that kind of like in a weird way influenced a lot of like my early songwriting, like the early Beatles stuff. It was so like
Okay.
innocent and kitschy and like fun and like boys like girls and like
Yeah.
I want to hold your hand. It's so just like
It
juvenile
was
love.
bubbly. Yeah.
It's bubbly, yeah. And you know what? I really actually like that about a lot of like pop music is like how like kind of silly and fun it is. And
Yeah.
nowadays, I'm actually like a pretty big fan of pop music. Like I love Sabrina Carpenter so much,
Yes.
and I mean a lot of like the girls that are kind of around right now are great.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
got
know.
that
I'm
like
not.
Sabrina, Dua Lipa,
Dua
you
Lipa
know.
is fantastic. What's her name? Gosh, why am I spacing on her name? The former influencer girl.
Oh, Addison Rae.
Addison Rae, dude. That album she
Yeah.
put out is so gas.
Diet
I'm like,
Pepsi is a car essential.
oh my god, yeah, it's so good. And I've gotten to see. Well, I went to Coachella this year, and so I got to see them. I had seen Sabrina like a couple years ago at Coachella too, and so
Mhm.
like seeing some of those artists live, I think really helps you appreciate like the kind of effort that goes into pop music. I mean, it's so much more
Yeah.
than just like the song. It's like the world that they build and the sets and the dancing. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's very cohesive. Like you mentioned, Sabrina Carpenter, that whole like Sabrina Wood. It
So
really
sick.
comes across in not just like this recent album, but in Short and Sweet as well. Which is cool that you
Yeah.
got to see that transition from like
Yeah.
when Short and Sweet was starting with Espresso
Dude, I
into
heard
her going to
Espresso
headline.
at
Yeah,
that she like debuted it at Coachella that year. Like I remember like being on the lawn and listening to Espresso for the first time and being like, dude, this is a banger. And at
yeah.
the time I wasn't like a huge Sabrina fan, but I like totally became a Sabrina fan after that.
Which is so funny that you say that because like I put this on social media and it generated a lot of conversation and controversy. But what I was trying to say was I wish Sabrina like showcased her earlier work more in her Coachella
Mm,
headlining performance because it was very like
mm.
man's best friend, short and sweet. But like those earlier albums have so many good songs that like didn't get the appreciation that I feel like other headliners when they do Coachella they showcase their
Their
full body of
entire
works.
catalog. Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to dig in a little deeper with her because I do love her stuff, but I'm not as familiar with her earlier work.
Yeah, emails. That's a great album. That's a good starting point.
I'll
You
put it
know.
on my list. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your process and your production process. What was it like putting this EP together, and where were you drawing a lot of your inspiration from?
Yeah, this, like I was saying earlier before we got on here, you know, working, being an artist and also being like a producer and like working with other people and other projects, it's difficult to get through your own stuff sometimes. So things
Yeah.
just like get paused or put on the back burner. So this, even though it's just 3 songs, you know, I've been working on it for a while, just in bits and pieces, like nibbling at it. And then I finally decided, you know what, I just need to get it done. And so I really like kind of made time for it this spring and just decided, you know what, I'm going to put it out. I need to get it done, gave myself a deadline, finished it, and yeah, now it's out. So my process is largely dependent on my own availability for myself. Like I need to book myself, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No. Yeah, that does.
Yeah, so my process is mostly just me showing up to my studio, which is the room across the hall, and deciding like I'm gonna work on my stuff today, and then getting as far as I can in the time that I have, and hopefully doing it again as soon as I can.
Yeah. Where are you pulling from when you were putting this together? Were you like thinking of other artists or projects that kind of inspired this, or was there like a certain lyric or line, part of song that kind of like started the kickoff process for this project?
Can't really identify like one specific like song or lyric or anything like that, but what I can say is that there's definitely like an infusion of a lot of stuff that I've been listening to in this record. um Honestly, it's like a lot of like interesting girl pop stuff, like the
Yeah.
alternative girl pop, like ML Buck, OK Lou, Carolyn Polachek. Like those are my
Great.
girls, and like
Yeah.
I want to be like them, you know. And like at the end of the day, I just want to be like, one of the girls, you know. I just want to
Yeah.
make music that like could show up alongside them. Um, I think that like those artists, among others, like there are other artists in that sphere that I love. But like they've had a great influence on me. And what's interesting to me is that like during my time with Hate Drugs, when my band was like really active, I was listening to a lot of like male fronted band music.
Mm.
And while I've been really focusing on this project, I've been listening to a lot of like female solo artists, like
Yeah.
more like avant-garde pop stuff. And that's really been, I don't know, kind of fueling my creativity in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Like, you as an artist, what was the moment you decided you wanted to become an artist?
Um, you know, I can pin it down actually. Well, here, I'll say this. there wasn't a moment that I decided I want to be an artist, but there is a moment that I felt like I needed to be an artist. And
Yeah.
not in the sense that like I was like, "Oh, I need to do this because it's my purpose." I just felt like I had to do it to survive what I was going through. And it wasn't
Yeah.
even like I need to make money out of this. It was like I need to devote my life to this because I feel like I almost don't have a choice. I'm going to go insane if I don't. Like basically like when I was getting done with college, I went to a 2 year like community college, and I went through like a really rough breakup situation, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to run away and I'm going to leave
Yeah.
Bakersfield where I was and go back to where I'm from, which is Kona, Hawaii. And I was like, I'm going to go as far as I can away from this situation and try to heal. And as I was in Hawaii, I was like living the dream. I was working as like a tour guide, and I was like surfing every morning, taking people out on stand-up paddleboards and kayaks and doing surf lessons and all this stuff. And I just like woke up one morning and was like, I'm not ready to die. Like this
Mm.
feels like I'm living in like heaven or some kind of like afterlife that I'm just not ready for. Like I got to go back to earth, and
Yeah.
I got to explore who I am and my purpose and stuff. And so when I went back to Bakersfield, like shortly thereafter is when I started like putting out music for the first time, like seriously on my own. And then the band formed around that first EP that I released solo. And then basically from there until now, and that was 2014, until now, we've been a band and it's still the same
Yeah.
guys. And so that's like that was the beginning of my journey with music. But I felt like I was making music as like an emotional response to what was happening in my life. Like I
Yeah.
never when I was growing up, my dad was a musician and I was like, I don't want to do that. That's what my dad does. You know, like there's that feeling
Yeah.
of like I don't want to become like a dentist. That's what my dad does, you know, but like
Yeah.
my dad was a musician. And so I never really like saw that for myself. I saw the struggle, the financial struggle. I saw like I don't know just how many people try to do it and kind of fail, and I was just like, I don't think that's for me. And then it kind of like, I mean, in some ways, maybe fate caught up to me, and now I've been doing this for like 12 or so years, whatever.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm really
Yeah,
curious, what do you hope audiences take away from this project?
that's a really good question, and I feel like I have to think about it because I didn't really create it with that in mind. I
Yeah.
I just kind of created it and it spoke to me. And I guess I would hope that people can hear whatever made me feel the way that I feel about it. I hope people can hear that or feel that as well.
Yeah.
These songs gave me a feeling of like new life and new direction. And I was talking to someone else about this. Like for the first time ever, I feel like I broke down some of the walls that I've built up between like my faith and my art.
Mm.
And not that the songs, like I wouldn't in a million years consider these songs like Christian songs, but there is like an infusion of like some of my faith through some of the lyrics and some of like the spirit of the music, um
Yeah.
that I haven't really explored before. Yeah.
That's so good.
I hope people feel
That's
peace. That's what I hope.
yeah.
I hope people listen to it and feel like a sense of peace.
I love that. That's really good. I'm curious, is there a lyric or a line from the project that you come back to often that you think about?
um Yeah, there's a line in Pastures. I'm so bad at remembering my lyrics off the top of my head. Can I look at my lyrics one sec?
Yeah, yeah.
I know exactly what line it is. I just don't want to botch it. Um, okay, this is what it is. I chase my tail looking for answers. You take my hand and lead me to pastures. It's like,
Ooh.
yeah, it for me it kind of encapsulates like that chaos that I oftentimes like find myself living in, and how like God is kind of always there. And also like there's like a little bit of ambiguity. Like it could also be a partner that grounds
Yeah.
you, but like how like there is that grounding, and I'm like, I may be like frantically looking for like, what should I be doing with my life? What is my purpose? What is the meaning of all of this? Like how, what decisions do I need to make my career successful? And then having
Yeah.
that grounding presence that's like, in spite of my chaos, you ground me and lead me to a place, beside quiet waters, and restore my soul. Like, I feel like that's a powerful lyric for me. And again, when I say like, I hope people listen to this and find peace, I'm like, yeah, you don't have to be a Christian to understand that. And like, it's not
Yeah.
preachy. It's not supposed to be like some come to Jesus moment. It's mostly just like me explaining, like, I find peace in knowing that I have this grounding. And sometimes it's my wife that is the one who takes my hand and leads me to pastures. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's not enough hope maybe in the world, and hopefully I can share a little bit of that with people.
Yeah. That's so poetic. I love that. Well, it's time for my
Thanks.
favorite question. I asked you to bring 3 songs from 3 other artists, and feel free to elaborate a little bit on why you chose these.
Yeah, the first one is a song called Sidelines by Tori Moi. Um, I love Tori Moi. I love his like dance stuff is like some of my favorite dance music. But I feel like this EP that he put out with Sidelines on it is like such a great little EP, and it's got like quirky acoustic vibes with some classic Tori Moi production. And um yeah, he's just like talking about like, sports and his hometown, and kind of like coming to terms with his childhood and his love of music. And I feel like it just like really
Wow.
speaks to me lyrically, and also the production is like immaculate.
That's cool.
Yeah. um the second one is the Blue Nile, Headlights on the Parade. And it's just got like this like driving like bass arp that feels like so it feels so like night drive vibe, like
Yeah.
obviously Headlights on the Parade already kind of gives that, but there's something about like the whole beat of the song that feels like it's just like the best night of your life. And driving through the city after like having the best night of your life or something like that. And I
Yeah.
love that whole album is incredible, but that song specifically, when I put it on, I feel like, like I enter, like I'm in the movie, I'm now in the
Yeah.
movie. And then the third song I want to shout out, Nicholas Craze, the song called For Now. And it's just like the best kind of that kind of like rock fusion, acoustic, like Daryl Johns type vibe,
Yeah.
where it's like great chord voicings, like all looped together to create just like, I don't know, great feeling music that's a little bit unpredictable in the right kind of way.
Yeah.
um yeah, cool chords. And Nicholas actually played guitar on the first and the third track of the EP, so I wanted
Oh,
to give him
cool.
a shout out and just say he's incredible. And you've probably heard his music on TikTok. That song Watching has like a billion streams now. So good.
Wow.
I mean, it doesn't actually, it has like a million, but it's so good.
But it always feels great when you feel like that when you go and look at the numbers and you're like, wow, this is doing it. You know?
Oh my gosh, yeah. There are certain artists where like when they have, I mean, I champion most artists, to be honest. Like I love when people succeed, but
Yeah.
especially like certain artists that I feel like really deserve it when they get recognized. I'm like, this is the best day of my life.
Yeah.
I'm like, this
Yeah.
is so good that this person is getting their flowers.
Yeah.
So yeah, go listen to Nicholas. He's amazing.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming and chatting with me today. I really appreciate it.
Of course, dude. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you doing what you're doing for artists, and
Thank you.
yeah, it's been fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I hope everyone enjoys my favorite track on the project. Here's Pastures.